12:03, so I think maybe we should go ahead and get started. And I think since we have a little bit smaller group, I would love to kind of, because we do want this to be interactive and conversational, we would love for everyone to introduce themselves. I'll start. I'm Hasina Moyuden, pronouns she, her, hers, and I am the Assistant Dean of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion here at Peabody, and we're so excited to have all of you for this discussion, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation, Corbette, because I love talking to you about equity and inclusion, and so I can't wait to hear your thoughts. And so I might turn it over to you, Corbette, to introduce yourself.
So Corbette Doyle, I know many of you, so I see lots of former students on the call. So I am a professor in the LPO department, and I also teach in our online doctoral program. And I see at least 4 people from our online doctoral program, the LLO program, including some of our recent graduates who are now doctors as well.
Okay. Thank you all for joining us. And I'm excited that our own graduate assistant, Taylor Kellogg, will be the student facilitator for this session. So Taylor, will you introduce yourself?
Yay, hello everyone. I'm Taylor Kellogg, and I am the graduate assistant for the Peabody Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. And also I'll be the student facilitator today. And I'm almost a graduate of the Learning Diversity and Urban Studies program. Next week, I think like August 10th is the official day, so we're close. But I'm excited for this.
Yay. So I'll just go kind of alphabetically. Alejandra?
It's Alejandra.
Alejandra, are you able to introduce yourself? If not, please feel free.
Can you? Yes. Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. Hi. I wasn't. This is my dad's computer, so I didn't really know if it was working. My name is Alejandra. I'm gonna start the LOP program this fall. I'm actually from Colombia, and I'm gonna start this semester remotely. So I'm just excited to see how these events go and just get to know some people.
Well, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Angela.
I'm Angel Wright Lanier, if you're talking to me, but I am a doctoral student in the EDD program online. I live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and my profession, I'm an assistant city manager of the city of Fayetteville, North Carolina, so nice to meet you all.
Thank you for being here. Yes, I had you next, but there is actually an Angela as well.
Okay.
If we could have Angela.
I'm watching Angela and I'm saying, wow, her lips aren't moving. How is she doing that?
I get called Angela, so I just answered too.
Oh, that's okay.
Love it. It's a good name to have, right? So it's a pleasure to connect with you guys. I am so excited to be on this and that this is happening. I'm Angela Courtney. I'm 5 official days away from being finished with my classes. I'm in Corbette's Leading Diverse Organizations class, which is fabulous. If you're in the EDD program, I highly recommend it. I'm a management consultant based in Nashville, and I actually just became our diversity council chair, and I'm really excited about that. And so, yeah, so an opportunity to make some progress, hopefully. So really looking forward to this conversation and connecting to you guys.
Thank you. Anna. Anna Lynn?
Anna Lynn, yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
I know, I'm sorry. Is there an Anna here? And so,
Anna Lynn, sorry.
I wait, because sometimes there is an Anna, and I don't want to jump over someone. I'm Anna Lynn. I'm just about to start my 2nd year in LOP, and yeah, so just thought I'd jump in here and hear what today's about.
And you just did the Peabody takeover, right?
I did.
Okay. Thank
Which
you
is terrifying.
We appreciate it.
It was fun.
Binta?
Good morning, everybody. Hi, I'm Binta Brown. I'm in the Leadership and Learning Organizations doctoral program. It's nice to see Corbette, and I think it's Angel that's in the program with me. I'm actually starting a new role as the Director of Diversity and Talent Management at the University of Texas in Austin.
Wow.
It's going to be a heavy lift, and so, but I'm realizing that all my life I've kind of worked in this space. I have a passion for it, and so I was excited that this was another opportunity for me to converse with folks who have similar roles and passions. So thanks for having me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is shaping up to be a great conversation already.
I know, I love this. All these
Exciting.
leadership roles.
I know. Brianna.
Hi there. So I do not have the same level of leadership roles because I'm only an undergraduate at Vanderbilt. And so I'm a rising junior in the HRD program.
Thank you for coming. Well, we'll have that in your future, hopefully.
That's right.
Craig.
Hi, I'm sorry, I joined just a moment ago because I had a call come in right as we began. I'm the English department chair at an independent school in Southwest Florida, and I am wrapping up my first semester in the Leadership and Learning and Organizations program.
Thank you for.
Is it only Hasina who froze or everybody? Only Hasina.
I think I may have frozen. I'm sorry, was there a follow-up question?
No, I think it was Hasina froze. So no, it was just the one question. So Taylor, maybe you can call on somebody else while we wait for.
I might ask Taylor, could you take over?
Yes, yeah. I'm trying to see, okay, I don't think that Tony, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, wonderful, thank you. And hello, Corbette. It's so wonderful to see your smiling face. And I see one of my cohort members, Angela, here also. It's such a pleasure to be here with everybody. I am stepping into my third year of the LLO program, and I'm in the fourth cohort. Currently, I'm the Director of Learning Sciences and Technology in a leadership development program down at Air University, which supports rising Air Force captains and Air Force leaders in the Department of Defense. And so excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. Taylor, do you want me to take over again?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I think, did Jackie go?
No, hi everybody. I'm Jackie Schumann. I am in the Leadership and Learning and Organizations program. You can see me mapping my research in the background.
I love it.
So anyway, at least there's something on paper. I am completing my second year in the next, I don't know, week and a half. I also went to Vanderbilt undergrad, Peabody College in Human and Organizational Development. So I am a super fan of Vanderbilt and Peabody College. I currently work at Colby College. I live in Portland, Maine. Colby's in Waterville, Maine. And I am the Senior Associate Athletic Director at Colby, Senior Women Administrator, Deputy Title IX Coordinator for the college, and I am our Chief Diversity Advocate for the Athletic Department, which has just actually over the last several months become an NCAA designated position. And then I oversee our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, strategy, and action planning that we're doing right now. So.
Wow, that's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
And you have much better weather right now than we do. Although I heard it's been pretty hot in Maine.
It has been. It's really funny. I told my friend this morning, I don't know, yesterday I decided not to go for a walk because it felt too hot. And then I thought, oh my God, have I lived in Maine too long? But no, it's actually been like mid 80s to 90, but it's really nice. And you know, anyone who sees me in the winter, I am struggling and 5 shades later. And so I'm happy to be in a place that's warm and pretty safe right now. So thanks.
Thank you. Keldrick.
Hey everybody, I'm Keldrick. I currently serve as an Assistant Director of Undergraduate Assistant Director of Admissions in the Undergraduate Admissions Office here at Vanderbilt. I'm actually starting my last semester in the LLP Master's Level program. Love Corbette. I've taken all of her classes. She challenges me. Everywhere she goes, you will probably see me there right beside her in every lecture. So I'm so excited to meet all of you all and to learn so much today.
Thank you for being here. Michael.
Yeah, so my name is Michael Barron. I'm a recent graduate of the LLO program and loved Corbette's class. What I would want to say is that I really got so much out of her class in terms of EDI knowledge and research expertise. Recently, over the last few months, I've been thinking, wow, as much as I loved the class when I took it earlier this year, to have taken it now this summer with so much going on in society in terms of Black Lives Matter and so many other variables and factors that are affecting us socially that are related to EDI, that would have been amazing. So I think her class was invaluable when I took it. It must be spectacularly relevant and important right now. So great stuff. And I also really admire the energy, the positive energy and encouragement that Corbette brings to every class, literally every moment of class. So I've always appreciated that about her. So
Thank you. Molly.
Hi, everybody. I'm Molly Collins. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I teach in the Department of Teaching and Learning, and my areas of interest are in language acquisition in young children, and I also teach in the Educational Linguistics and Second Language Acquisition program. And I've known about Corbette's work for a number of years, and I'm thrilled to listen to her talk, and I'm envious of all of you who've been able to take courses with her in the program. So thank you for having her as our special guest today.
Thank you. I do want to go back to, I think Heidi, I might have missed when my internet wasn't stable. So Heidi, if you could introduce yourself, that would be great.
No problem. Hi, I'm Heidi. I'm a Peabody alum from quite a few years ago. I was in LPO in higher ed, and I definitely knew who Professor Doyle was. But yeah, I had a really good time at Peabody, and it's great to be able to come back and be part of the conversation again. So thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Sharon, you're here. You're on mute, though.
I finally got to get in.
Yay.
I'm Sharon Shields, Senior Associate Dean at Peabody. And I just wanted to join this group. I love Corbette too. She's a great friend and colleague. And it's so good to see so many of you on this Zoom meeting. Heidi, I'm so glad to see you as an alum coming back. I haven't seen you for a while, and it's just so good to see all of you.
Yeah.
And let's see, thank you. Shelley.
Hi, everyone. It's really nice to meet you all. I'm Shelley. I'm an undergraduate like Brianna. I'm a rising third year at Vanderbilt, and I'm double majoring in Spanish and HOD.
Thank you. Whitney.
Whitney, you're still on mute. Yep. I could do Whitney's introduction for her.
Maybe we come back to Whitney and go to Andy.
Hello, everyone. I'm Andy, and I'm an incoming student to the IEPM program. I'm excited to see all you guys, and thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay.
I love to see a couple of our incoming students. That's fabulous. Andy and Alejandra, yes.
Okay, thank you. It's already the midnight of China.
I was wondering what time it was. I was going to do the numbers, yeah.
We appreciate that coming in and joining us. And is that your son in the background?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is my reading room, and this is a piano.
Ah.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
It's already the midnight. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. And you
Oh yeah, I'm a returning student. I graduated in 2016 from my APM. I'm currently a grad student in Human Development Counseling online program, and I love Corbette's class. I really enjoyed that strategy analytics class. So the moment I saw her name popped up on faculty FaceTime, I was just like, yes, this is the one I want to go. Yes, and then before I transitioned into a full-time father, I worked at NYU Shanghai as a curriculum designer in community engaged learning. So basically working with faculty to move their academic teaching into local communities and really connect with whatever's going on around.
I love the picture.
So cute. Yanni.
Yes, are we introducing ourselves?
Yes.
Sorry, I came in late, couldn't find the link. I'm currently a rising sophomore as an HOD undergraduate, and I'm just really passionate about organizational management, and I was just learning about covering in workplace, so I'm just really interested in what Professor Doyle was working on, and I just want to chime in and listen to everyone's perspectives on it. So nice to meet you all.
Thank you. And Whitney, I think I can see you now, so.
Hi everybody, I'm Whitney. Sorry about that. I had been on hold for about an hour, so I had to pick up that.
Sorry.
I just finished the LLO program, and I had the good fortune of taking 2 classes with Dr. Doyle, so I'm thrilled to be here. I work in a K-12 school in Fort Lauderdale, and I'm the Vice President of School and Legal Affairs there, and just happy to participate in this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you.
And this is another new doctorate. So Dr. Walter Sachs and Dr. Barron have both finished their capstone presentations not even 2 weeks ago.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
And I'm going to turn it over to Taylor.
Yay. Well, thank you everybody for coming out today, or, tuning in. So I wanted to get started by asking Dr. Doyle about a synopsis of your career and why did you choose the path that you did?
So I'm going to give a really short version because I really want to spend the time talking about some of these great additional questions that Taylor has and that people submitted. But the short version is I was originally on the academic track, and when I started college, I thought I was going to be a math teacher. I picked my college because I wanted to be a math teacher. Then I was going to be an economics professor, and my advisor talked me out of accepting the fellowship I'd been offered and encouraged me to go the corporate route and get someone to pay for my MBA, which I did. And so someone paid for my MBA at Vanderbilt, which is my Vanderbilt connection. And in terms of everything else along my career, I have to say that I know people hear advice about having a long-term plan. I would say that I've been opportunistic my whole career. I've always tried to do more than was asked. I've always raised my hand, looked for interesting opportunities, tried to address things that I saw were issues that nobody else seemed to be doing anything about. And I also focused very early in my career on speaking and writing. And speaking and writing about things that I knew. I consider myself a serial expert. So like serial entrepreneurs, I'm a serial expert. When I get interested in something, I really dig into it and try to both develop knowledge and then share that knowledge. And the result of sharing that expertise really means that I've just had lots of interesting opportunities come my way my whole career. And so if the opportunity looked interesting, I accepted it. And I would say that the toughest decision I ever had was when the CEO of Aon, which was the corporation I worked at, before joining the faculty at Vanderbilt. When the new CEO hired from McKinsey, approached me about being the head of diversity, I was very reluctant. And I was reluctant because at the time I was, there was one other woman at the same level of the organization that I was, but we were the only two senior women, and we weren't in the top tier. We were the only two senior women in the organization. And, you know, my reaction was, I can have a bigger impact on, you know, women's careers and other people's careers in this role than in the diversity role. And he convinced me that they were really serious about moving the dial and that I would be able to have an impact. So I took on that role. And the last thing I will say before I turn it back to you, Taylor, is that it was, and I say this for Binta and, you know, Angela, you're doing it in addition to your role, but it was simultaneously the best and worst job I've ever had. Taylor.
Thank you. So as the global head of diversity for Aon, like, how did you uplift like women into positions of power, and like not just women, like just like other like marginalized groups? Like, how did you actually like achieve that?
So before I really understood the research on the EDI space, which I've become far more familiar with it since I joined the faculty at Vanderbilt, I think it is one of the things I love about our graduate programs and you know, our LLO program is the focus on evidence-based practice. And you know, those of you who are undergraduates, if you have a chance to take the HOD evidence-based practice class, it's not offered every semester, take it, because we need more people doing this work who understand what the evidence tells us works, what the evidence tells us we really don't understand, and what we still need to learn more about, and combine that with an ability to actually move the dial in an organization. We need more people who have that mindset and that opportunity and scope of responsibilities to change things. So I understand a lot more now, but even early in my career, before I took on the diversity role, I had tried to launch a global mentoring program for women because I could see, I had been very fortunate. People had given me opportunities. I have never officially worked a 5-day work week since my first child, who just turned 31 last week, was born. And so I had opportunities, but I recognized that it isn't enough for organizations to recognize talent once that talent has made itself visible. Organizations have to create structures and strategies that enable people to be successful so they can move up in the organization. If we only focus on proven talent, the vast majority of that proven talent is going to look exactly like the talent you already have in your organization. And that's why this whole focus on structure. And so right now, the focus has really shifted towards structural racism and the need to be an anti-racist from a structural standpoint is so important. We have to understand, we have to take a look in an organization and say, look, if we bring diversity into the organization and that diversity is not moving up in the organization, something's broken. And you've got to figure out what it is that's broken and then work on fixing it. And the solutions will be different. The problems will be different in every organization. The solutions will be different. So I was trying to address it as a leader from a mentoring standpoint, saying, look, if we want to be a successful organization, if I want to be a successful leader, I need to make sure all the talent can rise in the organization. So let's get some mentoring that doesn't have to take place on the golf course going in the organization. And I think it was doing things like that that led the CEO to ask me to take on the role. Once I had the role and had the CEO's backing, we did a couple of things. You know, we launched a 18-month leadership development program for the top 30 women from around the globe. I mean, we had, you know, women from Botswana and Vietnam, you know, just all over the world participating in the program. Really robust, unbelievable. And a lot of those women moved on to very senior roles, you know, since then. We launched, you know, there were women of color in that program, but that's because it was a global program, not because we'd succeeded in the US in actually moving women of color up in the organization. And so for people of color in the organization, we focused on where do we stop, where's the problem, where are we no longer advancing people of color in the organization? And we developed in the US a leadership development program for people at that level. We couldn't get the financial support to fly people at that level in, which we were flying the women in from all around the world. And so we actually, in 2007, launched a virtual development program. So it was conference calls. You know, we didn't have, WebEx was around, it just didn't work that well. So, you know, we did it virtually, but it was project focused. It worked well. So, and then also HR would not fund a formal mentoring program. Black female, who was the head of talent development, was also the co-leader of the African American Employee Networking Group. And it was actually 2 Black women who were the leaders of that. They approached me about having diversity fund the program. And so we did. So we did things like that.
Okay, I like that. So you were, okay. So I know I was, from notes from class, I remember you saying like, we should view EDI efforts through the HR life cycle. And you were like, kind of just talking about HR. And like, also like using that, like, so viewing diversity like through, or like EDI efforts through that cycle, but then also like measuring success through that cycle as well. And like the cycle, I think, is like recruiting and hiring, evaluating, pay, develop, and promote. So like how, like how do like, I guess we'll ask the question, like, how do you measure success, right? So, not like, if
yeah, and Taylor started freezing. So I think I've got the scope of the question though. So yes, in class, I really did focus on that notion of the talent life cycle. And I was hinting at it with one of my earlier points, that if you really want to help an organization be more successful, you need to understand what's not working. And we're talking about people. And in the workplace, you know, we're talking about people's careers. What is keeping people from being successful? And what is keeping the organization from becoming more diverse? And then what is keeping people who look different from the current leadership from being successful? And so if you use a talent flow model, if you look at how people flow or move through your organization, you have an opportunity to say, to identify where the problems are, and then to explore solutions to that problem. And so one example is, you know, what's the first thing that happens? Well, people apply for a job at the organization. So, you know, first step is look at the applicant pool. Is the applicant pool as diverse as we need it to be? And if you're trying to become a more diverse organization, that applicant pool needs to look better than your current workforce. And if it doesn't, then you've got a problem with that applicant pool, and you need to start looking. Do we need to start targeting HBCUs for recruiting? Do we need to start recruiting from state schools that over-index, like New Mexico? University of New Mexico has a much bigger percentage of Latinx students than almost any other school in the country. So start taking a look at those opportunities to improve the applicant pool. Then the next step is, well, okay, people apply, but are they getting an interview? And so if you've taken, many of you have taken my master's or doctoral diversity and inclusion class, lots of problems with resumes. The names on resumes send signals no matter what we try to do. So, you know, we take a look at the applicant pool and, the interview pool and say, okay, maybe we solved our problem with the applicant pool, but are those people actually getting an interview? Because they're not going to get hired if they don't get an interview. And so you look at every stage, and then once people are in the organization, you start looking at opportunities. You know, the big one is promotion, but increasingly, some of the cutting edge companies are saying, okay, we need to take a look at a step before promotion, and we need to say, what differentiates the people who get the promotion? What are the kind of developmental opportunities that characterize people who get a promotion? Are they in a formal development program? Are they getting assigned to certain kinds of projects that lead to success? You know, consulting. I know we have some consultants on the call, and I know someone had asked a question about consulting. You know, in professional service firms generally, whether it's law firms, accounting firms, or consulting firms, there are client accounts that really matter, and there's a lot of client accounts that don't matter. If you're going to get promoted, if you're going to make it up the partner track, you're going to be working on those key accounts. And so, you know, taking a look at those developmental opportunities and saying, what are the demographics of the people who are getting those opportunities? And if it's not what it should be, how do we change that? And then I'm going to add one piece, Taylor. So, you know, I do talk a lot about the talent life cycle, but as you know, I also talk a lot about the need to build inclusive behaviors into the workplace. And we do that when everyone in that lowest level of management is receiving development help to be an inclusive team leader, to be an inclusive manager. Because if you work for a boss who behaves in a way that keeps you from voicing your ideas, from taking on opportunities, it's unlikely you're going to get those development opportunities. So we really have to work on those first level managers and train them to be inclusive leaders, to coach their talent.
Okay, I like that. I want to go to some one more question related to that, then I'll go to some questions that students posed in the RSVP form. So how do you see this like translating into like higher education spaces? Like how do we how do we achieve like structural change and like culture change in like the space, especially like when I think like, right, so because of the situation that we have now, like because of like the Black Lives Matter movement and like other, I feel like it's been like it's been pushed to the forefront again, and we have like a lot of momentum going, and I think that there has been a call for a long time for like change in how like higher education institutions that are predominantly white like operate. So yeah, how do we like begin to like change this? Like how, like, you know, like, right, like hiring professors and like admitting students, right? We're trying to like increase diversity, but then even like when we increase diversity on campus, like how do we make those like diverse students like feel included on campus? Because I feel like that's also like a missing piece. Like maybe schools can get them here, but then it's like maybe they don't feel like as comfortable, right? Or as seen. So, yeah.
So first of all, it's a great question, and it's hard work. I should also say that I actually sit on 3 different EDI committees at Vanderbilt. So I am on Hasina and Dwayne's Peabody EDI committee. I actually lead the committee in the LPO department, and I am also on Owen, our business school's EDI committee. And much like in any organizational setting, the issues are different and they are the same in each of those 3 settings. And so I really encourage everyone I work with in those committees to focus on creating a culture of inclusion, because again, just like any organizational context, you can bring all the diversity in the door that you want. A lot of organizations buy diversity, but if you don't have an inclusive environment where people are likely to be successful, you know, people will leave. And people always have the option to leave, and they leave in many different ways. You don't have to physically leave in order to leave. I think one of the biggest opportunities for Vanderbilt is to focus on creating a more inclusive culture. And, you know, for professional students, that really means creating inclusive classrooms as much as anything. That involves the work that the professor does, and it also involves the culture that the professor tries to encourage among group work. And so group work is where I know a lot of problems occur. So that is one big bucket. Undergraduates, and I am not discounting the importance of having an inclusive classroom, but for many of our undergraduates, the biggest impact takes place outside of the classroom. And so we as an institution really have to make sure that we are addressing inclusivity outside of the classroom. And so, you know, what's happening in the dorms, what's happening in Greek life, what's happening on athletic teams, what's happening in social events. So now, that is not my area of expertise in any way, shape, or form. I know it's an issue, but it isn't one that I have a lot of expertise on. So I'm going to leave that one aside and just acknowledge that it is an issue. From the standpoint of the classroom, we are really working on that. And so some of you were on the call early when I was talking with Hasina. One of the groups within the LPO department has already jumped on, one of the tracks has already jumped on their efforts to get faculty to reevaluate all their curriculum to ensure it is inclusive. And so do we have readings and assignments that are going to be offensive to some of our students? If so, can those be eliminated? If not, for example, it's an important legal decision and our students need to understand it, then make sure we're providing context around that. You know, assignments, what are we doing with our assignments to make sure our assignments are inclusive? And so, you know, depending on individuals' backgrounds, certain types of assignments will be much more difficult for them than for others. And so are we creating options in assignments so that everyone has an opportunity to showcase their ability and their skills and their knowledge? So this is a massive process. One group jumped on it early. They had Hasina join them, and one of the faculty members went through and had everybody kind of pull apart their syllabi to find ways to make it more inclusive. We are going through that in different groups that I'm on committees for, where we are taking major efforts to do that. So that's the first start. We need to make sure we've got the right environment for the people who are already here. Next, I mean, and we've been in LPO, and I can only, you know, well, LPO and Owen, we have made great strides in improving the diversity of the faculty. So both in LPO, every new faculty member that we hired this year is a person of color. In Owen, they did a great job this year of bringing on some diverse faculty. So we've got a lot of effort to improve the diversity of the faculty. And we have strategies I can't talk about yet in terms of our goals on the student end. So we're keeping our fingers crossed. Asina and I are optimistic.
Okay, well, yes, I'm excited to like see what comes of that. And I do think it's very important to like make like syllabi like to decolonize them. It seems like that's what they like, that is what the goal is. So I think that's really cool. That is a great start. I'm gonna go to some questions that we have in the comments.
Yes, thank you.
So Binta said, building sustainable structural and behavioral inclusion may be the goal. Changing people's behavior is challenging. How do you circumvent this?
So great question, Binta, and I think it has to be two parts. You know, I think you have to start the hard work on the structures and addressing the structural issues. From a behavior standpoint, it is very difficult to change people's behaviors unless you are changing the environment. And so, you know, one of the things that you will talk about when you take the class, Binta, which is coming up coming up soon, I think this coming semester, you know, one of the things is, as I mentioned earlier, building those inclusive leaders. The most important way that any organization impacts its culture, you know, organizations are always talking about our culture is X, our culture is Y. Culture is really about teams, because any organization any of you have been in, educational or non-educational, there are groups you want to be a part of, there are classes you want to be in, there are departments you want to be a part of, there are teams you want to be on, and then there are the ones you don't. And it is because of the culture of those teams, that smaller group environment. The main way anyone has an opportunity to impact culture is through acknowledgement of behaviors that get rewarded or punished. And this applies, again, across institutional contexts. In an organizational setting, you know, or in a classroom, who are you calling on? What behaviors determine whose voice you are allowing everyone to hear? When it comes to rewards, who is getting promoted? What kind of behaviors does that person evidence? You are reinforcing the culture by the selective attention that is paid to good and bad behaviors, and impacting how leaders see and then reward or punish, and I use punish loosely, those behaviors is how you impact the most meaningful way that you can impact behavior.
Okay. Another question from a student, Gail said, or actually Yukai's before that, what are some evidence-based strategies to navigate implicit bias towards people with EDI backgrounds within the organization, particularly on the leadership level?
Wait, would you say that again? I was trying to read the question in the chat and I can't find it. So tell me the question again.
No, it's okay. It's like a little bit up. So Yakai said, what are some evidence-based strategies to navigate implicit bias towards people with EDI backgrounds within the organization, particularly on the leadership level?
So, you know, number one, don't mandate implicit bias training. That is one of the worst things that you can do. So the evidence is very clear that that is a problematic strategy on multiple levels. Any training that the organization does, and this is training in general, you know, this is, you know, just from a pedagogical standpoint in the classroom, you know, Our Center for Teaching tries to help teachers understand that they should design a class using backwards design. Start with the end in mind. What are the learning outcomes you want your students to have? And then you go backward to build the course. Same thing in organizations. And so, you know, in the EDI space, what organizations should start with is, what is it we are trying to accomplish? And that needs to be, you may start with a big picture thing. We want everyone to be able to succeed. Okay, let's talk about what that really looks like. And how do we know if we have achieved it? So really focus on measurable objectives and measurable outcomes, and then build strategies that achieve that. Now, you may ultimately decide that training is part of that. Implicit, you know, there may be a need to help people understand that implicit bias is an issue that needs to be addressed, but you really need to decide what you're trying to accomplish, and then you design training that is focused on that specific thing you're trying to accomplish, and it's not one and done. So, and that is the approach that I would take with leaders. Really start with that. What are we trying to accomplish? How do we know if we've accomplished it? And then let's go backwards.
Okay, I like that. I think it is important to like measure how we're going to or to acknowledge how we're going to measure success, right? So thank you. Another question, so many questions from students, I love it. So Gail said, how can students who want to support this effort make the curriculum more inclusive get involved? I know Hasina answered that a little bit, because we do have the, there's a college-wide syllabus review project that's taking place. So if students do want to help with that, you can definitely email Hasina. She put her email in the chat, so you can hop on that. But if Dr. Doyle, if you know other ways, you can also let us know.
So in LPO, and I know many of you, but not all of you are involved in LPO, but in LPO, we are going to be launching a student advisory council that will include undergraduates through LLO participants. And so all the faculty have a draft of the proposal in their hands now. And so we are finalizing that, and the intent is to launch that, including the application process soon. So hopefully.
Can I jump in just a little bit?
Beg your pardon?
Can I jump in just a little bit?
Yeah.
One of the things that actually at the meeting that you mentioned, one of the suggestions that one of the professors shared was that they do ask students for any readings that have had an impact on them. And so I would just encourage you, if there are readings that you know of that aren't on the syllabus, like reach out to your professors. I think they are willing and would love to hear from you. And so,
that's a great suggestion. And Hasina, jump in anytime. This is, you know.
Yes, thank you. So I'm gonna hop to some questions that students asked via the RSVP form, and then we'll get back to the ones that are in the chat right now. So let me see. Okay. What advice would you give to someone who is exploring consulting as a career? And how did you develop your interest in the healthcare industry?
So, you know, consulting as a career, the first thing I would say, and I advise a lot of students informally, before you decide on consulting as a career path, I always encourage people to take a step back and try to understand their own interests and passions and the things that work for them and don't work for them. And for me, in particular, a major difference between consulting and working inside an organization. My favorite part of consulting is the variety. And so if you crave variety, consulting can be a really interesting career path. On the other hand, if you are someone who needs to have a voice in decisions and wants the ability to make the decision to say yes or no or implement a strategy, you may be better served working inside an organization. Because one of the biggest frustrations of consulting is that you do this phenomenal work, you make this recommendation that is so clear cut, and then your client ignores you. If that's going to kill you, don't go for consulting. So, that's the first thing, is really understand yourself. In terms of being successful in consulting, the best consultants, and again, I mentioned this indirectly earlier, professional services in general, so consulting, law firms. So, Whitney, who's on the call, is a former major law firm partner, so she knows this is the case, accounting firms. If you're going to be really successful and make it to the partner level, you will be what's called a rainmaker. That means you bring revenue in. The best rainmakers, revenue follows them. It follows them from client referrals. If they change jobs, clients follow them. The most successful consultants I know are problem solvers. They aren't focused on selling a solution. They are focused on understanding what is the client really struggling with and how do I solve that? And to do that, they are excellent listeners. They ask fabulous questions, and there's a real art to asking great questions. And they are amazing listeners. And when I say an amazing listener, you're hearing what's said as well as what isn't said, because many don't really know what their problem is. And so, it is why, there's a book that I use in one of my master's level classes that's called Evidence-Based Management. And the whole focus is asking questions and really digging into the questions that you need to ask. So, and healthcare, I fell into healthcare. I was assigned to a consulting project for a major healthcare client that ran into major legal problems while I was working on the project. And because of a prior background, I had some ideas about solutions, and I ended up spending like 9 months working on these major projects with a law firm and the client. And all of a sudden I became a healthcare expert. So Nashville was a good place to become a healthcare expert as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So guys, we're running low on time. There's so many questions because this is such a cool topic. So I'll try to do 2 more quick ones. So Keldrick says, any recent dope book recommendations. I would encourage people to someone already started, but if you do have recommendations, drop some in the comments. And then Dr. Doyle, could you say it? Do you have a couple?
So, my favorite right now is Ibram Kendi's How to Be an Anti-Racist. And, one of the reasons why I love it is because of his focus on structure and processes and really dismantling the structures that keep us from a society and from an organization from achieving our goals. The other thing I love about the book is that he identifies an issue that really pulls apart the Black community, and it's an issue that I have seen pull women apart. So I've worked with lots of really successful women who will not support efforts to help other women be successful. And they won't because they don't see the problem. They've been successful. If I've been successful, any woman could be successful. They refuse to see the structural hurdles. And Kendi raises that same issue, for, Blacks in all kinds of organizational settings. I will say he does in particular call out some very senior level Black Republicans who have cabinet or close to cabinet level roles on the same issue, that they don't see the problem. And so it is why I love that book. If you want something that's a little lighter reading, but still really interesting insight, it is The Book of Lost Friends. It's written by Lisa Wingate, who also wrote Back When We Were Yours, which is a novel that's written about the infamous Memphis orphanage that was basically selling orphans. The Book of Lost Friends is told right after the Civil War and modern times. And there is in New Orleans an actual historical society that is the Lost Friends Historical Society. After the Civil War, so many former slaves were trying to find their lost family members that the Methodist Church published this newspaper, and then the pastors would read it in the church, and they would read the messages of family members trying to find one another. And the novel is about that. And so it is a lighter reading, but still, you know, raises really important issues.
Thank you. So, okay, I know we have like literally 3 minutes left, but I really like this question, so I want to get it in. Angela said, how do we start to have real conversations about equity and inclusion challenges that have gone unspoken up to this point? For instance, the lack of relationships between Black women and white women, particularly in the South.
Oh, so that's a great one, Angela. And it's, you know, it's one of the questions that's frequently asked. How do you know if you've got some racist issues that you might not have acknowledged? If all of your friends look like you, you're not as inclusive as you think you are. So it's a tough question. And I'm not going to suggest that there are easy answers, but inside an organizational setting, I think there are a couple of opportunities. One, the most recent research from Lean In McKinsey, Why Women Matter, you know, they did a heat map of different issues that women encounter, and they did women who don't identify as binary from a gender standpoint, women with disabilities, Black women, Latinas, Hispanic, and white women. And in a couple of those categories, women of color were having far more success than the other categories of women. I think there are some unexplored opportunities for reverse mentoring, taking topics like that to bring women together to say, okay, this is going well for me, and let me, you know, tell me why that's going well for you. And, you know, just we can learn a lot from each other that I don't think we have explored in the past. One of the other strategies I love that those of you who've already taken my LOO class heard in my master's class, we had a guest speaker from Groupon, their head of diversity. He rolled out a strategy. All executives outside of work had to have conversations with people of color who they didn't previously know, just casual. Now, this was lunch and a time when you could just go to lunch, you have to find a different vehicle, but encouraging people to go outside of the workplace setting and just build a relationship with someone who didn't look like them, that they didn't otherwise have, to start them on that journey. And the results, you know, he said the results so far have been fabulous.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think that you've given us like a lot of like tools and like also just like things to think about how to like create change like in the workplace or whatever environment that we're in. And we're literally at the 1 o'clock point, so we want to respect everyone's time. We had so many more questions prepared, but you know, this is how the cookie crumbles. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Dr. Doyle, for participating in our Faculty FaceTime Friday today. Yeah, I enjoyed it, and I think other people did. There are some good book suggestions in the comments, so we'll look forward to
the chat sessions. I can see recommendations.
Yes, yeah, they have great recommendations. So we'll take that and we'll send it out to you all by next week, probably Monday. But yeah, do you have anything you want to say, Hasina, before we go?
I want to say it was fabulous to, oh, sorry, that was Hasina. I just want to say it was fabulous
no, go ahead.
to you all. It was great. Hasina. Yeah.
I was just going to say, we have our last faculty FaceTime for the summer next Friday with our Associate Dean for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, Dwayne Watson, who is also a professor in psychology and just an amazing human being. So we're excited to have him. We are going to hopefully have these in the fall, but probably not weekly. So stay tuned. We'll probably do them monthly in the fall, but we would love to kind of continue this and would invite you all to join us. So thank you for being here and sharing your Friday afternoon with us.
Great to see you all.
Thank you guys. See you all next week.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you.